I would just say, try to find your passion, and a couple ways to do that. Um, Maybe ask yourself, what's something. Well, I know a lot of times what people say is, what's something that you can do all day and not realize where the time went. And for me, if I'm writing a blog post or I'm reading or watching a video about finance, for me, like I'm so interested in that, I just don't even realize, how long it's taking, and before I know it, the whole day is gone. And so that's kind of one, I guess, question or thing you can ask yourself to discover that passion. But I mean, really, at the end of the day, you know what that is for you. I mean, at the bottom of your heart. So just start to ask yourself and reflect, what really does get you fired up on life. And that's kind of what you want to, I think, pursue with the rest of your life.
This is Better Wealth with Caleb Williams. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode, a very special episode of the Better Wealth podcast. I am here with people that are younger than me, which I think I've had a couple people on the show to date that have been younger than me, but it's always a lot of fun, and I think you will gain a ton of inspiration when listening to this or watching this on YouTube. So if you have a family, make sure to drag them out wherever they are and have them watch or listen to this. But I am here with Jacob, Terry, and Dani from Teen Financial Freedom. How are you guys doing?
We're doing well, Caleb. We're just so happy to be here. You've been such an inspiration in our life, and really just presented us the opportunity of a lifetime to be able to host our own podcast with the help of you. So we're just so grateful to have you be a part of what we're doing, and really just be a mentor to us in everything that we're doing.
I wanna give the quick backstory on how we met. And the purpose of this podcast is, number one, I want to bring awareness of your guys' podcast is out. Okay, Team Financial Freedom. And by the way, if you have questions about the blog, about the podcast, about connecting with them, if you go to teenfinancialfreedom.com, that's where you can look at. That's where we're going to be pointing everybody, and they can find out all that's going on. But I want to give a little backstory, and for that, Terry, I want you to share, because I think you can probably summarize it the best. But how did you hear about who I was, Better Wealth, how we got connected, and I want you to highlight one word. It's proactiveness. Proactiveness is so key for anyone, but if you are young, if you're under the age of 30, and you can be proactive in a genuine way, I'm telling you, this whole money thing will get figured out. And Terry, you are a perfect example of that. And so why don't you give the little backstory of how this whole thing came together and how you guys got connected with me?
Yeah, so it all started with my mom was a part of a tax advising service of some sort. I think it was called TaxBot. And I came home from working at the cafeteria one day, and a webinar had just started with TaxBot, and I think you were down at their headquarters or something, and you were giving a little presentation on Better Wealth. And I remember just listening to your backstory in the intro of the webinar. You were talking about how you were homeschooled, like I was, that you worked at a chicken processing plant for a while. And then I think it was that summer, I had been working at a farm processing chickens on a much smaller scale. I was like, no way, we got that in common too. And then you were talking about how you were interested in finance at a young age. I was just like, this guy is amazing. He's like a slightly older version of me. I've got to reach out to him. So, I just loved the webinar after it was finished. And I just looked you up on LinkedIn. And I guess this is where I kind of took the proactive step that Caleb wanted me to highlight. And I just reached out to him. I said, hey, Caleb, I just watched your webinar that you did with TaxBot. Love your story. I guess I might have thrown in some bullet points of like the things we had in common. Like, we were homeschooled, both worked at the chicken farms, and we both were interested in finance at a young age, those type of things. And just reached out to you and kind of threw that out there. And then you got back to me with a short video, and then we just kind of continued like a short conversation. And then you reached out to me to do a Zoom meeting, or like a webinar, or sorry, yeah, just a one-on-one Zoom meeting. And then we got to know each other a little more. And I guess here is where you were proactive with me and held me accountable. And you gave me a book or two to read, which I got my hands on and read. And then you told me to come back to you after I was done reading those books and to give you a book summary. And then we would do like another follow-up. And then it was in that meeting that I introduced you to our projects here at Teen Financial Freedom and the team. And then the rest is history. So
See, there's so many things I want to highlight there. It's number one, reaching out, being genuine, like building that bridge. But anyone that knows my story, like it was only made possible because people were super generous with their time and poured into me. And so I kind of have a secret commitment that if anyone reaches out to me, I'm going to give them at bat. And what impressed me so much about you, Terry, is you just continued to go all in. The books that I gave you to read, you read them and you got back to me. I remember you met with Jeremy, our head wealth coach, and he told me, he's like, this kid is super impressive. I think he said a future BetterWealth coach. I think, so I just want you to know that everyone that you connected with was just like you just impressed, and that really just says a lot and makes people pay attention. And then when I got to hear about what you guys are up to, and Jacob, I got to meet you, and Dani, I got to meet you, I'm like, wow. So Jacob, can you explain a little bit of what you guys are up to and like why you got started? And then maybe Dani, you can also, after Jacob's done, share a little bit of your perspective, because I believe you're the youngest person in this group. But I want people to know like what you guys are up to, how it got started, and then we can talk about why you guys started a podcast, because I'm just excited for people to hear this message.
Sure thing. So it's kind of a funny story how it's all started, but essentially back in the summer of 2019, I was looking for ways to make money online, and I stumbled upon blogging. Blogging was always something that I had considered doing, but I never really had the courage to do so. And I don't know what it was about that summer, but I guess I was just I just had the guts that summer to go ahead and start it. And so I went and purchased the domain and decided to give it a shot. And really, I wasn't sure what I was going to write about at first, but I figured it would be best to pick the topic that one, I knew more about than most people my age, and then two, that I was the most passionate about going forward, and I wanted to learn more about that. And so that topic would be business and finance, and that's why we started the Teen Financial Freedom blog. And really, I would have been 16 at the time, super young, didn't know what I was doing, but I just started writing blog posts, and I wrote a post every week. And within probably a month or two, a guy named Josh reached out to me, an older college student who essentially just offered to help and kind of join the team and sort of guide me and help me with whatever I needed to move forward. And so he helped us out for several months until eventually Terry and a girl named Amanda joined. And from there, they kind of started blogging a lot more and helping us get even bigger and just kind of work on a couple different projects. And then from there, Dani joined, and we'll talk about her more in a minute. But essentially, what I've kind of noticed in our generation is there is an overall lack of financial literacy. And I knew this before I took this class in high school, but I took a class in high school called Life Skills that was essentially learning all of the basic personal finance principles. And me having the background in the blog and knowing a lot of this already, I excelled in the class and did extremely well. But my classmates did not whatsoever. They were struggling. They did not understand these topics, and I had to help them with a lot of it. And so I just started to realize that there is an overall a lack of financial literacy among our generation, and that's one of the things that we're striving to make a difference in. And so, I mean, that was just kind of the backstory behind how we got started. And from there, we're just keep adding team members and trying to grow this into something that can impact as many people as possible. But Dani, do you kind of want to share about when you got started with us and kind of what you do for us now?
Yeah. So, wow, it's been almost a year since I joined. It'll be a year and a week. But when I joined, I was actually kind of scared because I'm not that knowledgeable on finance, because I'm more interested in the success and mindset part of things. So I was scared that, what am I going to write about? Because I don't really know anything about finance. But I'm this blog already had different topics, and I figured that I could write about success and having a good mindset and how you should look at life and stuff like that. And that got me interested. And I was super like passionate about writing about this stuff. And I write a blog every week about probably one of those topics. I occasionally write about blog about finance, probably like once every 4 months. But at Team Financial Freedom, we have this blog, we have this podcast, and we have our own Instagram. You can follow us. And yeah, that's basically it.
Dani, how old are you?
I'm 14.
14 years old.
Yeah.
And you joined when you were 13.
Yeah.
And again, I just want to highlight like the work that you guys are doing. You're putting yourself out there. There's a very, very big problem. It's called financial literacy. And people don't know much about the subject that they're going to dedicate their life indirectly to working for. It's crazy to me. And you guys are out there, and it's kind of sad how quickly you guys blew up because there was not a lot of people, if any, out there doing what you're doing. And so people were starving for this info, and it just took off, and which is just really impressive. And so when I heard your guys' story, knowing what I know about podcasts, I was like, guys, if I can fund the podcast, meaning if I can help you guys with the back end, with getting it on, edited and all that stuff, would you guys put yourself out there? Because it's another form of documenting the journey. And I remember you guys were a little bit nervous at first, but then you guys have been absolutely crushing it. And it's another way to document the journey. And what I'm most excited about is it's another way to start connecting with people, because you're going to be able to pretty much get any financial person on the podcast. I will help you if there's anybody I know that I can help get you guys on your show. And what you're going to do is you're going to start building relationships. You're going to be able to help tell their story from a different perspective, and you're going to encourage and inspire so many people. And so it's just unbelievable. Terry, how many people visit the website a month right now?
Ooh, that's a good question. I know it's a lot more than I ever dreamed of would be possible, but it's definitely in the 5 figures. I think it's, Jacob, what is it, like 30,000 a month?
So we have
monthly?
like 25 to 30,000 page views a month. But I don't know, probably like anywhere from like 10 to 15,000 visitors a month. And then, from there that turns into 25, 30,000 page views. So like Terry said, way more than we ever expected to get.
And that's a form of value and leverage. It's like you are putting out value. You're not necessarily saying I'm the expert, but you're writing about things. You're putting it on a place where more than one eyeball can see. And from there, a lot of good things happen. And this is a question I would like all three of you to answer, starting with Jacob. What was one of the things that you learned about money, about life, about success, maybe about yourself through getting started? So you might have started for one reason, but now I'm talking to you right now with all the experience up until now. What are some things that you've learned about money, yourself, maybe what you even want to do with your life through this venture?
That is a very good question, but a very tough question as well, because there's just been so much. And we have actually written a blog post recently about the 10 reasons why we blog and sort of the things we've learned from this process. As far as a lesson learned about money, I would say the biggest thing has been the consumer mindset that our society has. And I feel like just the biggest key to achieving wealth is just to spend less than you make. And if you can do that, then I think you're going to be better off than the majority of the population. So I think just as I've been writing blog posts for over 2 years now, or coming up on 2 years, I think I've just really seen how much of a problem that is in our society and how much of an important factor that is in achieving wealth.
And I guess for myself, I started blogging kind of with the mission, kind of what our mission statement is currently now, is to make a difference in the issue of financial literacy in our generation. So I think through blogging, I've kind of seen that it's even a bigger issue than I imagined. So I've kind of doubled down on that. And I'm kind of making like a goal for myself for the next, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, however long, to really just make a huge difference. And I guess one of the loftier goals I have coming out of blogging is I would love to use teen financial freedom and what we're doing here to eventually be able to provide a curriculum to like any public or private school that would want it, and to like actually start making a literal difference in the classrooms, but not with a curriculum that's just dry and boring and like some bureaucrats whatever slapped it together because Allah told them they had to, but like make it something that kids, when they start learning, like when they hear the first lesson, it really clicks and it grabs their attention and they want to learn more. Because I don't think it's important just to like shove the facts down the throat and make them execute actions. I want them to really understand it, understand why it's important. So that's been a huge realization and kind of a lofty goal for future. Yes.
One of the main things that I learned about money is that, success and finance, they're not like totally different concepts. They kind of like relate because mindset is part of success, right? Having a good mindset on life and stuff like that. But it also relates to finance because if you have a good mindset about your money, then you can, save and start budgeting and doing good things with your money, like investing. But if you don't have a good mindset about money, then, you're probably just going to spend more than you make, like Jacob said. So like everything is connected in life, like finance and like how you look on life, your mindset and everything like that.
What do you think the number one mindset hack is? Meaning, you say mindset, do you mean positivity, abundance, being able to strategize, being able to know what you want? When you think of mindset, what is the one thing that comes to your mind?
Honestly, it's like a mix of all of those, but like you said in the podcast that we had before, being intentional with the way you would live life. That really hit me.
So a question for you, Jacob, is you're getting to the age where you're thinking about college, thinking about future, thinking about career. Where are you going long term? Meaning, like, what are some of your goals? And then the part 2 question to that is, what piece of advice would you give someone who's 16 years old, wants to do something with their life, but doesn't know exactly what? What kind of questions would you ask them, and how would you challenge them, knowing that you were very much in their shoes just a couple of years ago?
Yeah. So I'm a high school senior this year, and so I'm graduating this month in May, and it's just kind of been a whirlwind of a ride. But I actually just decided on my college a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to Grand Canyon University down in Phoenix, and I'm just really pumped and excited for what that's going to be like. They're a private Christian university, and I feel like they just have a great business program. So I'm so excited for that. And kind of my plan for life is to become a financial planner or a financial advisor, just like Caleb is. And from there, eventually I want to be a small business owner, own my own business, just like Caleb is, so a very similar story as Caleb's. But I'm going to be majoring in finance, and then I'm going to be minoring in entrepreneurial studies. So that's kind of my plan. And as far as my advice for how to kind of find your plan for life, I would just kind of go back to things that we've talked about earlier, not only in this episode, but in previous episodes. And that would just be like finding your passion and finding what really fires you up. Like Caleb's been saying, he gets fired up about helping other people achieve intentionality, but fired up about helping younger people, with whatever aspirations they have. But I would just say, try to find your passion, and a couple ways to do that. Maybe ask yourself, what's something, well, I know a lot of times what people say is, what's something that you can do all day and not realize where the time went. And for me, if I'm writing a blog post or I'm reading or watching a video about finance, for me, like, I'm so interested in that. I just don't even realize, how long it's taking. And before I know it, the whole day is gone. And so that's kind of one, I guess, question or thing you can ask yourself to discover that passion. But I mean, really, at the end of the day, what that is for you. At the bottom of your heart. So just start to ask yourself and reflect, what really does get you fired up on life. And that's kind of what you want to, I think, pursue with the rest of your life.
Just want to highlight that this is a senior in high school. Jacob, I'm really proud of how you think and how you communicate. You have a super, super bright future, and I'm excited to see you develop. Just think about this. If you are going to get into the financial planning world and business world, you are entering college. You already have years of blogging, financial blogs. You'll think about the next 4 years or 3 to 4 years, how many guests you can bring on the podcast. When a lot of your friends are going to get an internship for the first time, you're going to have a whole library of connections and content. And just I want that to sink in. The other thing I want to highlight that you said is, if what would you do for free, and not even like, what would you do for free that adds value, like, because you love it so much? And then the follow-up question to that is, what about that, or why about that do you what like sets you on fire, kind of deal? And if you can get really clear on that, and none of us on this call have the answer, even in our own life, but it's that constant pursuit of intentional living, and it's really cool. Finally, I'll just say this: I have a couple friends at GCU, so I'll have to connect you with some solid
sure.
people
Yeah.
in the Phoenix area, but some solid people at that university. Terry, when it comes to writing about money, have you had any like money finance epiphanies that you're like, man, if people could just get this one thing, like Jacob said, which is really funny and sad and true. If you spend less than you make, you're by default going to be better off than most of America. Anything that's like, yeah, if I had to whiteboard out this concept, this is what every single person should know about money, and if they understood this and lived by it, they'd be better off than majority of people.
Yeah, funnily enough, one of the, I guess, some of the biggest epiphanies I've had are also some of the simplest, which is just kind of bewildered me in a sense. And I guess it almost makes it harder to try to get the point across, because everyone's already heard that advice before and thinks like, like, oh, I know that, and just kind of, brush it aside. But one of the someone a few months ago asked me a similar question of like, what would be one piece of advice you would give someone your age or younger if you pass them on the street about finance, like right then, like 15-30 seconds. And my answer then was, just start setting aside and saving like a small amount of money, because what comes to mind is when my parents had me and my siblings start doing chores, and we're earning like $5 a week for doing chores, which is, depending on which situation you're in, or your specific scenario, that could be like a decent amount or just like nothing at all. Like, who would work, who would do all that work for $5 a week? But the amount wasn't the important part. It was the lesson that they taught me. And the lesson they taught me was that you should always be saving money, that you should be setting aside a certain amount and just don't touch that. And out of that small habit, grew the discipline that when I started earning hundreds of dollars a month, I was using that same habit, and I was setting aside a specific portion of money and I was investing it. So now I'm sitting in a far better position than I would have ever dreamed possible than if I hadn't learned that really small lesson way back then of how important it is to just set aside a little bit of money. And you don't have to start investing right away if that scares you. Just start setting aside a little bit of money, and after you've gotten warmed up to the idea, then you can start investing it. And that would just be my.
You said the D word, discipline.
Yeah.
if you can teach your kids to do one thing, and it's delay gratification, learn to be disciplined, you're giving them the building blocks to serve people, build wealth, and be successful. And I also want to point out that investing could look like a Roth IRA. It also could look like investing in education, investing in people and opportunities to increase the kind of money you can make. Because again, you are your greatest asset. And what that means is you very much are responsible for the cash flow, the opportunities, the wealth that comes your way. Dani, I'm really curious about this. Out of all the blog posts that you've written, what's your favorite and why?
I think it would be the first one that I ever wrote. It was the daily routines, daily habits of highly successful people. Because I'm really interested in about seeing how successful people live their life, and what they do that makes them so successful, and how they spend their day, so that we can also kind of follow it, and also maybe that makes us more successful ourselves.
It's great. Habits, They're the building blocks on how we live our lives and very much show how we think. So you guys are amazing. I'm going to ask my final question to all three of you guys, and then I would like a really clear call to action on where my audience should go, how they can best support you guys. And again, I would not be behind you and making this podcast thing happen behind the scenes if I didn't believe in your guys' message. And even though I'm young, you guys, you are able to speak to a certain group of people that I would never be able to speak to. And so thank you for caring so deeply and being a part of BetterWealth's mission of helping people live more intentional lives, because of you, you're helping with that. And I'm really grateful that all three of you are in my life. So we're going to start with you, Dani. We're going to end with Jacob. If this is your last day on earth, I know you're 14 years old. If this was your last day on earth and you were with the people that you love the most, what would you make sure to communicate in that last conversation?
First of all, I would be grateful for everything that they've given me and be thankful for that. And also, I would say, like, never give up with whatever you're doing in life. Just keep going. Things will get hard, but, just keep going because it's always worth it in the end.
What about you, Terry?
First thing that comes to mind that I would tell them is to not let fear control their lives. Fear of failure, fear of what other people think of them, fear of, fear of just anything in a sense, and to take risks. To we had this in a previous conversation, but to not let to essentially look at the goal with the end in mind, I think is what you said, and to live intentionally now to avoid regret later. To avoid any regret on your deathbed, and to just take the risks now and to live without fear and pursue whatever opportunities that might look like. I think that would be my first.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What about you, Jacob?
Well, first of all, Caleb, just thank you so much for everything that you have done for our group at Team Financial Freedom. I think the number one thing that I would want to convey to people is just to try, with everything that you do, try to pursue the full development of your potential, because I truly believe that everyone is capable of so much, and everyone can make such a profound difference on this world if you really just try to pursue the full development of your potential. It's something that we've talked about before, but I would just say really take that to heart and think about what things you can do to not only make yourself a better person, but how you can serve others, build each other up, and in the end, just make a lasting impact on this world.
I love it, man. I have one more bonus question I'm going to ask you, Jacob. You shadowed our company for a day. I know you interviewed a lot of people on our team, and you participated in a daily huddle that we have most mornings. And then you went above board and sent everyone a thank you. And we were just all very, very impressed with how you showed up. What was one of the biggest things that you learned in just that opportunity to talk to some people on the team? And just what did you learn about our industry, our business? Did anything like jump out to you?
Well, it was such a crazy opportunity, and I was so grateful to get to do that. And really, the group at BetterWealth, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just such a different group of people, and every single person that I met with was just so positive, so encouraging, so inspirational. And I told you this, Caleb, in your letter, but essentially I just said that says a lot about you and who you are as an individual, as you have built this team, and you're, what are you, like 23, 24 now?
I'm just turned 25, so I'm the old person on this call for sure.
Yeah, but just as a 25-year-old, you've built this just crazy successful team. And so I was just kind of blown away by the group of people that you've put together, and how you are able to manage that team and how everybody has their different strengths. And I think that was just a big lesson for me on how I can better pour back into our members here at TFF, but also with any business pursuit in the future, how I can be a better leader, and really just learn how to manage a team well.
The reason I wanted to highlight that is if you are young, or if you have kids that are young that have ambition, that you can tell the 3 people that are on here, you guys are very, very impressive, and it didn't happen overnight, but that confidence comes when you do. I would bet you almost any company out there, if you sent them a proposal of, hey, can I shadow what you're doing? Can I interview some of your key team? Can I do, I mean, I would love to see people say no to that, and people will. But overall, it gives you a good opportunity to say, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. This is what I love about organizations. This is what I don't like. This is what I love about this kind of job. This is maybe what I don't like. And it could save you tons of time, tons of money trying to figure out yourself in college or figure out yourself in whatever. Some of the best ways is to shadow, and that's like a ninja hack that you can do. It works for anybody, but especially when you're young, you can just get yourself into opportunities that are just unbelievable. So how can people find out more about you guys, your blog, the podcast? And by the way, you guys, if you go listen to their podcast, go subscribe, leave a review. I know those kind of things really help get the word out. And so how can people find you?
Just like how you said at the beginning, just go to teenfinancialfreedom.com. If you go to our resources tab on that website, you can just see every single method of contact possible. We got our email on there, all of our social media, forms you can fill out to ask for help, whatever. Just go to teenfinancialfreedom.com and then find that resources tab, and you'll be able to get connected to what we're doing.
All right, guys, you're all rock stars. So grateful that you're a part of the BetterWealth Network, and I'm excited to see what's to come in all of you guys as you develop and continue to serve people, live intentional. And Dani, mindset and habits, it's really impressive. Thank you so much for listening to the BetterWealth podcast. It would mean the world to me if you could hit subscribe, leave a review, and share this with the people that you know and love.